Holy Vicky 3 is alive, like really alive. Paradox has crafted quite the picture of Victoria 3 in previous dev diaries, from 3D pops, gorgeous landscapes, an extremely functional and thematic user interface, just to name a few. However, developer diary number 50 really takes it up a notch and breathes literal life into the game in ways that have me very, very excited to nerd out just by watching the game progress, as it were. Let's take a look at all the ways that Vicky 3 looks to bring a stagnant map and turn it into something that makes for a living grand tomorrow, starting with your cities and hub expansion. Naturally, most of your Vicky 3 Breath of Life elements are centered around your city hubs, where most of your population lives, or will live as urbanization takes hold. The first thing you'll notice is the progression of buildings, expanding the limits of your hubs as they are constructed. In true Paradox style, regional and cultural buildings are 100% a thing in Vicky 3, so not only will you be able to see the expansion of your hubs, but they'll each have their own unique flair to them. Seeing your cities expand slowly over the course of the game will create that air of urbanization and progress that's just from these few GIFs look fantastic. It does go a bit deeper though. The tier of buildings in which your hubs show off depends in large part on the standard of living for the pops that live within the hub. In an effort to visibly show the standard of living and create some life, as it were, around these hubs, Paradox triggers an animation, a hammer and anvil that either hardens on an increase of the standard of living or breaks on a decrease. Personally, I think the animations are a bit too similar for me to see at a glance what's happening, and would prefer something a bit more indicative of actual living conditions. But this is a UX step forward to showcase that your cities are full of living individuals and that you should pay attention to them at least every so often. I'd love to hear what animations you think are appropriate to use. Who knows? Maybe Paradox will see that benefit and end up using it. That's not all for hubs though. As the game moves along and cities get larger and industries expand, there is a not so gentle reminder that the costs of advancement are right in front of us. Smokestacks producing pollution look great from a visual perspective, but also have an effect on the terrain around it, tarnishing what was once pristine countryside. Speaking of countryside and hubs, one quality of life feature is how the landscape will change as you develop mining, farming, and your forestry hubs, as they all do actually shape how the land will look the further development continues. Mountains might start getting carved into, the countryside will turn into fields and pastures, and trees will start to be cut down. It's a seemingly small aspect to want to focus on, but every little bit feeds the player this idea of a living, breathing world that I just can't get enough of. However, the final piece that I really love to see for your cities are your skyscrapers, of which of course are culturally unique as mentioned earlier. There won't be too many of these from what I can tell in the developer diary, but they all look great and will act as an anchor point for your Zeppelins in the late game, and as a result, they even light up to help guide them to the site. Your cities and hubs are indeed great and all, but they are nothing compared to vehicles on the ground, by the sea, and in the air. Few pieces of Victoria 3 will really give you the feel of a living world quite like vehicles, and Paradox is using a lot of them. What vehicles show up on the map or within your own empire depends entirely on technology and your production methods, meaning that you won't start the game with a world full of trains, cars, battleships, and zeppelins. Things start simply with horse-drawn carriages and the occasional coal-powered train, wooden clippers driven by the winds along shipping lanes. But as said research and as said production methods improve, the vehicles automatically improve with them. Old locomotives are replaced by smoother electric trains. Cars will take over the roads. Those wooden clippers? Yeah, try steamships and eventually massive battleships. And eventually, the ultimate display of progression, Zeppelins, which, as I mentioned, will actually anchor to your skyscrapers once you've got them built in your cities. My only concern centered around the progression of vehicles is just how cross-regional animations will function, primarily regarding ground vehicles. How will train animations work when my neighbor has no railroad infrastructure? What if the guy next to me has access to cars and for whatever reason I'm still stuck on carriages? Will they go across regional lines smoothly, or will it stop, convert to whatever transportation method is set in the region, look janky, or awkwardly change? Hopefully, Paradox has thought about this transition of vehicle advancement, and honestly, no matter what, I think it still just looks great. There is one aspect we haven't looked at yet. Wars happen, and it does look so good. Like everything else so far, your military and the progression of war across the landscape will be represented in the living, tangible, evolutionary manner. Regarding your military, on entering the battlefield across your war fronts, the most advanced unit type will be visible where the battle takes place, each with its own effects and animations. While the details of war and battles are a bit fuzzy for me, I haven't read about the war aspect for months at this point, I had hoped that battlefields would show off a bit more. I'd love to see a frontline representation and a backline. For instance, it makes sense to show off bunker fire on the front lines or flamethrowers if you've got them. But if you have artillery in the regiment that's taking part in the battle, both your arty and your bunkers should be shown off to really give off the full effect of the different phases of battle during this time period. And let's not forget naval warfare. The battleship shown off in the dev diary looks incredibly menacing, and seeing a few of those patrolling shipping lanes would be a daunting sight indeed. There's an important aspect to warfare, and it's this idea of a living war zone, devastation. Our first look at the devastation mechanic on the Vicky 3 map back in dev diary number 25 just looked like a giant mud puddle. What we've got now is almost a StarCraft Zerg creep function that does a significantly better job at representing the mechanic. From talking to the devs very briefly, they said that this feature actually does creep up on you. You're in the middle of the war, you're not really paying attention, and cities you thought were safe and far from the devastation are suddenly up in flames. The countryside looks torn up seemingly in the blink of an eye, and remember, or perhaps it's first time knowing, it will stay that way until after the war or until after you start actively working on reducing the devastation factor from the region. A living, breathing landscape. Wars might be a relatively minor part in the grand political scheming of Victoria 3, and even a very quick piece in the history of the game compared to the slower evolutions of the expansions in your hubs or the evolution of vehicles. But hopefully its effects will look great for the short time period that they are around. So overall, things are still looking great. Paradox has really taken the grand strategy game to another level, and now they've gone and created a world that you can immerse yourself in. You can watch it expand, you can see it evolve, you can watch it live and breathe, and you can also watch it burn. I can't wait to get my hands on it, and with an announced 2022 release date, we should be able to dive into this grand tomorrow before the end of the year. Thank you all so much for checking out the video. I hope you're as nerdy about visuals and strategy games as I clearly am. If you enjoyed any part of this, be sure to give the video a thumbs up, sub to the channel, turn on those notifications, and the best part, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this living, breathing map and any critiques that you see as well. This is Havoc, and I'll see you in the next one.
Electrified the world, and sparks of inspiration flew towards the sky. Up over the smokestacks rose a promise of a grand tomorrow.